Roadshow, episode number 480. My name is John Morgan, and cold coffee is with me, although I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't know how cold he could possibly be right now. In Las Vegas today, it is 106 degrees, bro. Summer is here.
That's crazy.
It's supposed to be 109 on Friday.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was today or – I remember at one point this week, that they forecasted that we were going to break 110.
Yep.
I thought it was today or tomorrow or something like that, so maybe
it
it
went
kind
down
of
a little
shifted
bit.
out a little bit. It's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot. Well, it's funny because – you know me. I'll go to a hotel and I'll turn the AC as low as I can go. My house, I do not, because the bills get crazy. But when you go outside and it's 110, you come into a house that's 80. It feels pretty good.
It actually feels good.
It feels pretty good.
I pulled up my phone to check and make sure. It's 109 on Thursday and Friday. This is amazing. So on my phone, just pulling up the weather on my iPhone here, excessive heat warning. You see, excessive heat warning. That's pretty crazy. You wouldn't see that. Excessive heat warning. These conditions are expected to last until 9 p.m. Pacific on Friday.
Wow. There's no reprieve.
It is hot.
I remember because I saw something that they were. It came up on my phone. It was like the National Weather Service, and it was like extreme weather conditions. And I pulled it up, and it was like California. I was like, I don't care about California. I was like, bro, don't you enter my zip code again? I was like, we have enough heat here. I don't need to hear about California's problems.
Well,
it's funny. The little dog likes to lay outside. So every once in a while, I'll put him outside. And the other day, I was like, here, go lay outside for a little bit. And he went outside, and he laid his belly on the ground. And I think he enjoyed it for like 3 seconds. And then he was like, nope. He's like, I'm over this shit. Let me back in the house.
Well, I just want to get that on your radar. Look, it always gets this hot during the summer. There's no question. It's just earlier this year than normal. Normally, this is kind of like late July type weather. So I just wanted to get on the radar because I'm sure there's a lot of media coming in town for UFC 303 Hill versus Ulberg.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that it's on their radar. That it's going to be a little bit warm when they're here for that. All right. I mean, got to address the speculation, right?
Yeah.
Got to address speculation.
In fact, I hear they're not even going to call it International Fight Week anymore. They're just going to call it Fight Week.
It's Domestic Fight Week. They just changed it. Here's the weird thing about it all, right? Like, you and I talk. It's funny, right? Because you and I sit here in this very fancy table here at the palatial
fancy
Casa de Cold Coffee here, and we talked about the fact that we weren't worried about the footage that was out there, that he was kind of hanging out in the club and doing the thing. We said, hey, man, he's blowing off a little steam, and hey, at least he's blowing it off with his girl and not somebody else.
That was a positive.
That's a good. So we're happy about it. But this thing has progressed very quickly. Now, what's interesting is there's a whole bunch of like circumstantial stuff that people are citing, like, tickets aren't still available. You can still buy tickets.
Yep.
ESPN isn't marketing the pay-per-view anymore. I still see an opportunity to buy it. So some of that stuff, I don't know. Again, very circumstantial stuff and very, just observational stuff that could be other things.
It could have been pure coincidence. Maybe they were down for that moment. Maybe something happened on the website, but when we just checked, everything looked squared away. Everything's good.
I saw that maybe they said some YouTube videos were privatized or whatever, but I haven't necessarily seen those. So anyway, I haven't heard anybody say the fight is off. I have heard people say that the fight is still happening. Now, what's weird about it is it's just so nobody's addressing what the situation actually is.
Yes.
I would look.
You're not hearing anything from the fighters.
That's
is the thing. I mean, we're not really hearing anything from the promotion, but we're not hearing anything. We hear Connor's, we came to an agreement, or I was like, what does that?
That is the weirdest statement ever.
What does that even mean? Like, bro, just say like, y'all shut up. I'm gonna be beating his ass on this date. Everything's good, but we didn't get that, and that's the weird speculation. And everybody's like, just say something. Just say something. Clear the air. It takes Connor's on social media all the time.
Right.
All the time. What does it take for him to, instead of put some picture of him on a boat or something, just say, hey, guys, I'm training. I'll be there.
Don't worry. I'll see you in Vegas. That's
it. That's it.
Don't worry. I'll see you in Vegas. That's all you need.
That's all we need.
That's all you need.
It's not a heavy lift at all. And
it makes me – so what – look. Two possibilities. All right, press conference canceled. That was concerning. Obviously, we know it's Connor. Michael Chandler's flying to Dublin, right? Like, he doesn't care, bro. That dude's going in with a broken leg and whatever. See you at the top. See you at the top of the stairs.
Whatever weight class.
It doesn't care. Let's go. Like, Michael Chandler is going in there. He's been waiting on this thing for so long. He's been waiting on this payday.
Time.
So we know it's Connor. Like, that's just common sense. It's Connor. But it boils down to one of two things, right? It's either a potential injury or a potential contract situation. I don't think it's the contract situation. I feel like they've always figured out how to do business together. I mean, Connor's obviously going to push for the maximum value.
Yep.
But Dana, Hunter, they realize his value to the company. They're going to find a way to make things
Yeah.
work. So it just leads me to believe injury. Because look, I've asked, I've reached out, and nobody's talking about it. Everybody's just like they're saying the same things. No, it looks good. It seems like it's going to happen. But they're looking for options. We know that feelers are being put out, and people are being asked like, hey, could you step in? You got people volunteering to step in now, right? I saw Submission Radio Boys. We're talking to Alexander Volkanovski. He's in. I saw Kayla Harrison was like, hey, I'll step in. I'll face Amanda Nunes. I mean, there's all this stuff underway, but nobody's saying that it's necessarily off. So I don't know, man. I'm usually a pretty optimistic guy as it is. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm feeling like this thing is still going to happen.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to get confirmation one way or the other.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I couldn't remember what the last number I saw on the test sessions of like the anti-doping, whether there was possibly something like that. He's got 10 tests this year. That's a lot of tests for a dude that hasn't stepped in there, So you would think that, okay, that seems to be okay. Let's not speculate. That seems like it's good, but it's just weird because you figure before we would have got this far, contracts, there's signatures on paper at this point. Things are done. I don't see where there could have been a point where he thought there would be a good outcome if he tried to change it after the fact.
Right.
Dana, with most other fighters, would play extreme hardball. I'm like, well, sorry, you signed the contract. That's it. Maybe it's not that same with Conor. Maybe Conor still has that if factor where maybe there's a clause where it's like, I have the right to pull out of this fight and there's nothing that you could do. And maybe he's smart enough and has the ability to get that clause into any contract that he does. But I would hate to see that because I figure at that point, there has to be some sort of monetary ramification. I think the UFC would cover themselves. The fact that they put on a television show, put him as going to be this coach, is going to coach opposite. They put all this money to do this sort of thing. Now they went into the advertising to have it, and they've done all this stuff. I would think that there would be some sort of ramification for Conor to completely pull out.
If this is not look, if it's an injury. It's an injury. There's nothing you can do about injuries. Injuries happen. There's no matter.
That would be a good way to get out, though, just to say like my ankle's tweaked now.
I'm sure they would be looking for a doctor's note, Sarah. They would be like, let us send you to our specialist in L.A. We'd like to take a look. If it's an injury, there's nothing you can do about it. The drug testing thing, I've seen a lot of people speculate to the drug testing. I don't think it's a drug testing thing, but I will say this. It really does point out how challenging the drug situation is now, right? Like I had somebody that was just, texting me, a friend of mine, a buddy. He was like, do you think it could be a drug test? And I was like, I don't think it is. And they were like, well, is the new drug testing, is there like a third-party like website where like you can monitor it and see?
Yeah.
And so I sent him the link, but I was like, well, you see, there is a link right here, and you can see, but you ask if it's third-party. Well, no, it's not third-party.
Not really.
It's kind of supposedly the dude that's running it, who we still haven't talked to yet. I was like, supposedly his reputation is above reproach, and like as I was explaining it, I was like, this sounds so dumb. And I want to be honest.
Shady, yeah.
I want to be honest with you. I don't think it's shady. Jeff Nowitzki, I've had so many private conversations, on-record conversations, off-record conversations. That dude is as straight down the middle as it gets, and he is as committed. You know it, man. You've had those conversations. He's committed to being professional. And I don't know the guy that's in charge of it, but obviously his reputation is incredible. Everybody's amazed. But if you're disconnected from it, you don't know who those people are, and you try to explain it to somebody, it sounds pretty dumb.
I mean, do you think – as much as I'm with you, too. I respect Jeff, and I trust him. Do you think if it came down to it, he would stand up for his principles as opposed to his job?
Yes, I think he would quit.
You think he'd quit?
I honestly believe, knowing Jeff Nowitzki the way that I do, and every interaction I've ever had with him, I think that if he flagged a test, and honestly, look, I honestly believe Dana and Hunter, as devastating as it would be financially, I think they would try to do the right thing because they would understand that, dude, this whole thing comes crumbling down if we don't do this the right way. You know what I mean? So I think they would do the right thing. But let's, for instance, say that somebody in a hypothetical situation was like, bro, we got a big pay-per-view here. This is International Fight Week. I need you to shut up about this. I think Jeff would quit.
Yeah.
I think he would quit.
That would be interesting to see. I would hope that would be the case. But, man.
It's hard,
It's
right?
hard.
You got a great job, probably making good
thing.
money. You enjoy it.
The USADA bridge is burnt. He's not going to go back to USADA. He's not going to go there. So where does a guy in his field, unless he goes – I mean, I imagine he could shift, gears and go to another avenue. But you're not going to find another –
he was an FBI agent for a while. So, I mean, he's got a lot of
you wonder. I guess he could always go to like the NFL or he can go to something like that. So it's not like he wouldn't.
And you know what? Honestly, how high would your stock be if you were the guy that said,
ran the UFC's program?
But you were the guy that told the UFC, "I won't allow you to corrupt me. I quit." Your stock goes through the roof. I just thought about that. So you wouldn't actually be screwing yourself. You'd actually be doing yourself a favor. People that dude told them to go get the stepping. You know what I mean? Like, but I think he quit. But I don't think that should say we're just two gentlemen having some fun, having a conversation. I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think it's a drug deal. So it's to me, this is either an injury or a contract situation. I don't think it's a contract situation. I think it's got to be an injury that they're trying to work through.
What if it was like a test weight cut? One, he shouldn't be partying if he was doing a test weight cut. But what if he can't get his weight down and there's no way that he's contracted going to be able to? That's what I was saying about remember that 185 thing I was talking about. It's starting now that I'm starting to think about it, it's starting to come to light. I mean, because outside of an injury, I mean, if the guy, if he's been, I'm sure they're having him check in, like, bro, where are you at in this process? Can you get down to this weight? What are you at right now? What are you doing? It's later this month. It's in a couple weeks.
I mean, look, if Paulo Costa can change weights for a main event, Conor McGregor can't. And dude, I guarantee you, Michael Chandler will be like 185. Cool, let's go. So I don't think
I know
it's got to be a lingering injury. It has to be. But nobody's saying anything.
Yeah.
I'm still.
But like a training injury. Like, what else is it? Like, at this point, his leg.
The leg has to.
If it's going to be the leg at this point, just stop fighting. Because it's been this long, and if it is an injury and it's lingering to where you're unsure if you're going to be able to fight, like, just stop, bro. You've got enough money.
Yeah.
At this point, you just, now you're messing with other people's livelihood, like Chandler and all the other ones. But
and everybody involved in this.
And everybody involved, I hope it's just something silly, like, I mean, I hope the fight's still on. I just hope that it was just the press conference just double booked, like there was some other little particular reason. But I just hate the fact that the silence is what making everybody speculate. And maybe that's a ploy. Maybe they just want people to talk about the fight. Maybe they weren't feeling people were talking about enough to, like, let's give them some controversy, something to talk about, something to speculate. And then they just swoop in like, y'all were worried. Y'all were worried about it. You knew I was going to show up. You knew I'd be on weight.
It's, I mean, well, that's what's interesting about this, because this is, like, story number one right now, but there's no information whatsoever. Yeah. But, like, UFC 303 is going to happen.
100%.
Like,
this is not going to be 151. You know what was it? There's been 3 events, right? I remember the longest time I only thought there was the 151, but I think there's been 3 UFC events that have been canceled.
151. There was the one that was in LA that, like, Aldo was involved with,
199 or something like that. At one point, I wrote them down.
197 maybe or something.
I remember 151 because that stuck. I was still at the UFC, and I remember I was just big. Like, "What was
that?
This?
That was crazy.
It was bizarre, and it was just like it was the event because they skipped the number.
I think it was 179,
and then they just went for it. And I remember thinking like, "Wow, the event that never happened," because of the first time that happened, it was like, well, surely we're going to go back and do the 151, right? Because we never actually had it, and they're like, nope, it just never happened.
Because they had already started to market 152, so they couldn't change anything. I actually have a ticket to UFC 151.
Do you?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, somebody that had one gave it to me.
That's awesome.
151 was canceled. Actually, Wikipedia has it, which is 176. That's the one that Aldo and Mendez. That one was canceled. There was a fight night in Asia, and then UFC 233. That was Cejudo versus Dillashaw.
Yeah,
so that was
3.
The third one. It's crazy. No, this is happening.
Yeah,
not canceled.
Yeah,
International Fight Week.
Yeah, this is going to happen. Now, I was going to jump to speculation. Now, will UFC 306 be Noche? Will it be UFC Noche, or is it just going to be UFC 306? That's a whole other speculation that people are talking about.
It's going to be Noche. I don't know what Valentina was. They just told Valentina that, so she's like, no, don't worry, it's fine.
She's like, I don't trust the judges. Blah 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 blah. Imagine, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy though.
By the way, so I just opened up Twitter, and I'm going to end all the speculation now. This is one, A, proof that your computer is listening to you at all times.
Oh my goodness.
And B, I'm ending the speculation. So I opened up Twitter, and the first tweet that popped up in my timeline was from T-Mobile Arena. And I don't even think I follow T-Mobile Arena. It's like UFC 303 marks the return of the notorious MMA. His bout on June 29th against Mike Chandler is the grand finale of International Fight Week. Take your pick of seats for the comeback. So T-Mobile Arena has silenced the speculation. The fight's a go, guys. You heard it here, all right? That is so bizarre that that's.
Can your computer send us some beer? Are you still listening? If somebody shows up to my house, we will take
We will
beer
take
right
frosted
now.
beverages right now. Hey, all
That's
right.
pretty funny.
So UFC 302, man, not necessarily the greatest event of all time, but I thought the main event absolutely delivered. I just want to get your thoughts real quick on the pound for pound debate because I am scratching my head. I'm stymied. Is it a debate? Is there any doubt in your mind that Islam Makhachev is the pound for pound number one right now, or do you believe that John Jones still has an argument? And let me preface that by saying, because I've already put out what I think. I think it's Islam. But let me remind everybody, I'm a huge John Jones fan.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not one of these because I see a lot of people chime in like, you can't call that guy number one pound for pound because he won't fight, he's not fighting Aspinall or he's a drug test or, all these things. I'm not saying that. I'm a John Jones fan. I'm a guy that respects his greatness, that likes the guy, that thinks he's the GOAT. But when I look at it, rankings, and I said this in the and a half episode, and I'm pretty sure it's true. I believe it was Gorgeous George Garcia when him and I used to work on the rankings all the time at MMA Junkie. He used to always talk about the fact that he looks at rankings as a snapshot in time, and I thought that was a perfect way to describe it. Right, like the rankings for today are today. You know what I mean? And does that activity has to be part of that, right? I mean, competing has to be part of that. So. I don't know. I'm surprised the debate is raging on. I'm surprised actually that Dana White.
Somebody had a good point with that. And I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go
some
ahead.
people are saying there might have been times where he was confusing the GOAT talk as opposed to the pound for pound.
Right.
Because I agree with you. There should be some activity, but man, when it comes to overall dominance, and I think that's partially what Dana and a lot of people take into what is the pound for pound, it's hard to discount what John Jones has done.
Agreed.
He steps away from the game for years, comes back and dominates and makes it look easy against the guy that everybody was talking like the new boogeyman, outside of Francis Ngannou, who was out of the equation. You look at Islam, and while Islam is dominating people, and while he is definitely great, and while I can agree with people that want to put him at the top, Dustin was giving him every bit.
It's true.
Every bit.
That's
And
true.
it was close. I mean, outside of certain exchanges, there was moments watching that fight when I think this is why I enjoyed it so much. You felt like Dustin could have brought that power at some point. Like, every time he got off the stool at the end of the round, I was like, wow. He could turn this around.
I gave him the fourth round.
If it wasn't for that ankle pick, that kind of turned the tide, I thought that he was really going to start pushing it. And so when I think of, when I want to say the pound for pound, who's going to be the most dominant guy right now, that wasn't a performance on his side that made me think that he was the biggest and baddest dude out there there. And then I would lean back on, Jones's last performance shows me that he is still clearly the baddest mofo right there.
Right.
But you can't, as you guys said, you can't discount the inactivity. You can only go so far. While I think John Jones, and Dana said, if John Jones walks into a room, who's going to walk out? But it's bro, you're taking weight class out of it now. You walk into Sean Strickland's house, John Jones or not, Sean Strickland's walking out of the room, so it just depends on what room that you're walking into and who's in the room with
got
you.
Shot and killed in his living room.
But I'm certainly not upset when people say that Islam, and it's funny, the UFC rankings, and I know that's kind of done by others. Islam's on top, and I can see where there is definitely merit for it. But I'm not mad when people want to keep Jones there because just in pure dominance of his last performances, I mean, it's just hard to discount. And while Islam looks good, there were chinks in the armor were shown, in past fights.
You could make that argument too, though, with John Jones. You could say Dominic Reyes. You could say Thiago Santos. So you could say those things. But I agree with what you're saying because I do believe John Jones. I mean, if you're using the definition that Dana is using, but let's say it's pound for pound. Let's say we walk into a theoretical room and we're suddenly morphed into the same size. Who walks out? It's still John Jones, right? You know what I mean? It's John, unless it's or Sean Strickland. If Sean Strickland is allowed to bring his strap in there, then he's the one.
Don't ring that dude's doorbell.
You don't walk into Sean Strickland's house because nobody's walking out. No, so if we can get it in the hypothetical pound for pound world where everybody is the same size, and we're using the definition that Dana said, it's if you walk into a room, who walks out, it's him. But I don't see it that way. I think with rankings, and here's the thing: I don't want to argue too much about pound for pound because that's all theoretical anyway.
Yeah.
If you're going to argue about rankings, at least let it be a division. You know what I mean? To where they have common opponents, all those things.
Yep.
But to me, it's not just about skills. It's about demonstrating the skills. It's about results, right? Like,
Yep.
you got to go get results. Like, the argument I was using on the and a half episode this past weekend was like, let's say that you're on the Bo Nickel hype train, right? Like, you believe Bo Nickel is that guy, right?
Yep.
He's going to be a UFC champion. So are you saying that right now you should rank him number one? Because if you think his skills are that great, if you think he's the best guy in the division, you think he's clear champion, if you think if he walks into a room, he's the one that walks out, then you're saying you should put him at number one right now. But that doesn't make any damn sense because you got to beat some people and move the way up. So that's how I look at even pound for pound. Now, granted, they can't compete against each other for the most part because they're all in different divisions. But you got to have results. And in the last 3 years, if I look at John Jones,
There's only one.
It's zero gone. So
It's hard to argue
again,
with that.
I don't want to spend too much time on it because, again, pound for pound is a hypothetical debate anyway.
It's just a talking point.
It's just a talking point. It is. But
There's no belt.
I felt
nobody carries the pound for pound belt.
doesn't get you any money.
Doesn't get you any extra money. It's just a bragging point.
Yeah, I just found it weird that I feel like everybody's definition is so different or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, because I agree. I do think. Look, man, if John Jones, and again, they're not the same size. John Jones, of course, is way heavier.
Yeah.
But if they fought and they were the same size, I would take John Jones. But yeah, boy, it'd be a hell of a fight, though. If Islam was 205 pounds, I guess John would have to get down to 205 pounds now.
Yeah,
But
he's a
boy,
big boy now.
thinking about that in theory, like if they were the same size in this hypothetical world, that would be a hell of a fight.
It would be a good fight.
That'd be a hell of a fight.
It'd be a good fight.
I literally have never thought about that in my life, but now, like, as I'm thinking in this weird hypothetical world,
Well, you look at a bunch of the Russians, the Dagestanis, and all those guys. We've seen versions that look like him that are 205, and that's a scary man. It's a fun debate, and I think that if anything else, the creation of the pound for pound, like the whole just talk about it was a nice talking point to create interest.
Right.
And what's happened is that people have gotten fanatical about it.
Right.
It was about just trying to give a talking point and get something interesting. Wouldn't it be cool? Or man, if I had to rank this, it's one thing. It's easy when it's a division because, like you said, there's numbers. This guy's beating this guy's beating this guy, and he's clearly at the top of the division, or he's the belt holder.
Right.
But the pound for pound, it's gotten to the point where people take it so serious where I think it was always supposed to just be a nice fun talking point for conversation.
Yeah.
And then people started saying like, no, my way of thinking is right, and this is how it's got to be, and your thinking's wrong, and it shouldn't be that far, especially on a thing that doesn't really exist.
Yeah,
and
right.
You can't actually
at
have
that point just
comparison.
go, okay.
Yeah, and that's all you can do. And I think the same thing with GOAT talk. Some people have their favorites of the GOAT, and there's going to be those favorites that will always be that person. You're going to have people that will live and die on Anderson Silva, who has been like the greatest of all time, and regardless of the people that have came on afterwards and people that beat him and people whatever. At that time, that's why I always say greatest of a time instead of like greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Because things happen and things change, but it's all. I mean,
and this sport is evolving so quickly, man. You can't even compare eras.
It's unreal.
I mean, Hoist Gracie would get absolutely destroyed today. You know what I mean?
We saw him get destroyed.
We saw him get destroyed. Yeah, but it's not like you can just go back and be like, "Oh, Hoist was never even that good." No, he was.
Yeah,
he changed
was.
everything. He changed everything.
The sport changed.
Destroyed.
The sport, I think, is what's making it so crazy. Because I mean, as the sports develop, these cats that are coming up are just amazing. Look at Raul Rosas Jr., who's going to be fighting on this
weekend, UFC Louisville.
Dude is a little stud. I mean, but he started up watching, had all these great examples, and by the time he started, there were lots of great examples of people to watch. A lot of the cats, the old school guys that are still actively fighting, they were great examples, but not to the depth of what we have right now. So the people that are falling behind are going to exponentially improve upon in short number what the people of the past did, just for all the different training, the techniques, the amount of coaches, the science behind it, the nutrition, all the other things that were just afterthoughts. People now have so much information to make themselves the best possible athletes, and that's why I think we're getting great fights out of cards that some people might be like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't. There's no name recognition, and then you actually watch the fights, and you're like, holy shit, who the hell was that? You know, and I think that's the great thing about this sport. So pound for pound, I mean, it's all fun. It's coffee table talk. It's beer talk. It's bar talk. It's just shit to do whatever. Like, people can't take it too serious, you know. I mean, just because nobody's ever going to be right. I mean, because what you feel is right, and I can agree with it. What I feel is right, and what somebody to the left of us might say, and we're like, bro, you made a good point too. Maybe you're right, you know?
I was going to say, are you suggesting that people won't listen to what you say and be like, that's a fantastic point, and you have adjusted my mindset on that? I have now changed my opinion. You are correct, sir.
That is it, 100%.
I see that on the internet all the time.
You're right. It's him. If you talk to Danny Segura, it's going to be Ilya Tapuria.
Catching strays over here, Danny Segura. Hey, you mentioned Valentina and Alexa. Did you watch the first episode of The Ultimate Fight?
I did.
Look,
I did.
Just a reminder, Tough 32 is underway. If you are one of those that still watches The Ultimate Fighter,
Yeah.
I would say not the most remarkable debut episode. Obviously, a very international cast. But
I think that's it.
You know,
Yeah.
it's they've got fighters from all over the world, which is very cool. Valentina is the gangster that you think she is, and how about the thing that it looks like resonated the most out of that I see on social media is just that little tiny clip of her saying, "We don't drink water in training," and people are going crazy.
Somebody
like,
said that
debating
too.
over this.
Well, Matt, the funny thing is that, and I think if people take it out of context, just that particular phrase, and you don't hear what she said right before that sentence, you could drink as much water as you want before practice and as much water as you want after practice, but during practice, I want you to feel that struggle. I want you to feel it, and that's the moment that we're going to push through. It's not like she's saying, like, hey, guys, before you train today or anytime in this house for the next X-Men amount of months.
For dehydration.
Yeah, you
all
can't.
times.
You can't.
No
and somebody
water
was like,
whatsoever.
Did you see her lips? Her lips were even chapped when she was doing it. It's like, bro.
So ridiculous. Even Nate Fletcher says right after it, and I wrote down the quote because it's spot on. He's like, I think it's a mental advantage. It's challenging. It pushes your mental toughness.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like if somebody was really, like, choking or they no water.
Yeah,
we don't do
100%.
It's just exactly what she explains. I want to put you in that. You're going to be this is such a mental game.
That's it.
I need to know you're not going to break.
That's it.
I need to know that in those scary times, the hard times, the press times, you're going to react, and this is going to be that little trigger reminder that you push through. I don't care if I'm uncomfortable. I don't care how I feel.
That's
I don't
it.
care. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just thought a lot of people were kind of going off on Valentina. I'm like,
It happened in our own Slack channel. That somebody started talking a little bit like this little thing. I think it was in the Slack channel. I don't think it was reading a Twitter or something like that. I mean, say you're training, say they're in the middle of this training day. What does a drink represent as well? It's a stop of training. It's a walk away from the mat. It's to leave the training area. You're stopping. Your brain switches to a whole other. It gets comfortable for that time. She just didn't want them to get comfortable.
That's it.
Stay focused, push through, realize what you're capable of doing, and it's going to benefit you. So yeah, I saw that people were talking about it. I was like, bro, did you not like? Obviously, you didn't watch it. You watched the fucking clip that somebody, because she says right before it, drink your water before the training, drink water after. But this is what we're trying to get from this, and it's just like people just were nitpicking and hijacking what she was saying to create a theme. And it's just like it was just silly.
I don't know if people don't like Valentina now or they just.
Well, I mean, Grasso's just like the baby doll. Everybody loves her. She's just super sweet, super nice. I mean, Valentina's the same way too. But I think what was interesting to me, and when I think I got that feeling, I think we all recognize that Valentina just looks like when she trains, she goes hard as hell. So when she started having her like opening speech, it felt like very authoritarian. Like this is gonna be like a military. We're gonna drill, and I was just like, I love seeing that side, and I was like, I understand now. You get a better glimpse of why she was able to do what she did, and I guarantee her team was like, okay, these are two women that are getting. They thought that. They were hoping or maybe thought that they would be coaching women.
Right.
They go and they're like, oh, no, we're going to dump a bunch of dudes. So there's a whole mindset, I think, where partially they have to how are these guys going to listen to me? I think they'll respect me for what I've done, but it's still, this is the guy that if he wanted to come jump on me, am I able to stop that?
Right.
Is there always going to be the respect that you need coming in as a coach? So there might have been ways where they were thinking like, okay, well, I need to take control of this.
Are they going to respect me?
Are they going to respect me? And I love
which is sad but fair.
Yeah, and I love seeing the way that she just immediately commandeered that practice. You saw with that clip, she was like, I'm in charge here, and you're going to follow along with it, And look, they got. It's already out. She got the win.
Don't spoil it. Yeah,
and
it's already out.
And what was cool about that too? That was the number one versus number one.
Yep.
She didn't no fuck about.
Let's go.
Like let's fucking go.
Yep.
That dude that won is sharp. I forget his name. Rebian.
Yeah.
Dude's legit.
Yep.
Both guys look legit. So I was like, dude.
Should be a good season. Not a lot of drama, but
it was funny. They showed the house, and it's funny because they go to the house. Everybody's gonna come running in, and you thought maybe, I guess it's first episode, so you're not gonna see any drama. The only thing they show from the house, everybody just hanging up their flags, and it just sort of represented.
That was really it. That was legit. All they showed.
There's everybody hanging their flags, and one person toasted for some whiskey or something. I was like. Yep. I was like, that's J-Mo right there. J-Mo moved into the house. He's like, I know we got to be training, but...
Wait. All this alcohol's free? And you'll just keep restocking every day?
they're putting the menus like, what do you need us to pick up? More whiskey.
More whiskey over
you
here?
know, maybe some gin.
How high can I go up on the dollar value? Like, can I go top shelf? Can we go on top shelf?
Top
Do I have
shelf?
to go well, or do I get what do I get?
I saw like Crown. I thought I saw Crown Royal. You know, there's going to be Howler Head out the yin yang there probably.
Gonna drop the Howler Head in there.
And then some other
Happy
ones,
Dad will probably be around there.
Yeah.
Some Bud Light, I'm sure they'll be in there. They'll have that all.
Oh man, yeah, but no, it's. I think it'll be good. I mean,
I still watch the Ultimate Fighter. I know a lot of people are just like, I
Yeah.
absolutely don't. Anything fighting, I'm gonna watch.
Well,
so.
this one I kind of want to see just because I have no clue who the fighters are.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm interested to see. You know, and they make a good point of showing beforehand. You know, like it's still Contender Series now finally has a champion, but it's there is the Tough has been a champion.
Yeah, what was the number?
Creator
15, right? They
yeah,
said
15. At least 12,
I think
13,
they said
14, 15, something like that.
That was in the opening
like
speech.
that's legit.
15 UFC champions, I believe, is the
so
number.
at some point down the line, the Contender Series will dwarf that. I believe because I love the Contenders, but I mean we're homers for Contender Series. I absolutely love that series. I love what it
We
does.
get to go watch live fights on a Tuesday right down the street from our house.
And it's like they know that there's like it's not like, hey, it's not your personality. You don't have time to win over the crowd with your family story or your energy. You just go out there and show us what you can do.
Yeah.
And if you live up to that moment, boom, and it's always so fun. I absolutely adore Contender Series.
too.
It is such an easy lift, but for me, it's just so fun. It's just like 5 fights, sometimes maybe 6 fights or whatever, just like action. Can sit and watch the fights, and then we interview the winners, and then we go home.
Can't
I'm
beat
like,
it.
I love it.
I do too. I can't wait for Contender Series to be back. It's coming soon.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about UFC program, it was kind of funny because I rolled over here and I was not expecting to see I totally forgot that you had Roku. And you had the Roku controller here, right? The Inside the UFC on Roku
Yes.
debuts Friday. So if you have Roku, because you have to have a Roku device to watch Roku, right? There's not like a Roku channel.
There's
on
a
Apple
Roku.com.
TV. There's Roku.com.
I think you could probably watch it through a browser.
Okay, find it.
But yeah,
so Inside the UFC is
yeah,
the name
you either
of
have
this.
to have a device because I don't think smart TVs will get to it. So I think you either have to go to Roku.com on a mobile or through a Roku
maybe
device,
a smart
or
TV
like
would
your phone too.
If you had a smart TV, you could probably. I know.
And maybe it is a legit app, so maybe.
Because I don't think
you
they would have it
could-
on Apple TV because that's like a competitor, right? So they
Yeah.
wouldn't have a Roku channel on.
I mean, I think I've seen Sling advertised as an app on Apple,
Okay, so maybe
and that's
it's-
a competitor.
I would say check this out.
Yeah,
And
look
it's
for the
funny
Roku
because
app.
I watched all 3 episodes. It's a 3-episode series. They shot for a year with the UFC, right? And they produced 3 episodes out of it. As far as we know, it's only 3 episodes right now. Now I don't know if they plan on continuing to do more seasons of it. I really really hope they do. I know there's a ton of programming out there, but this is the most behind the scenes stuff that I've ever seen. And I've been following the sport for a long time, watching everything they produce for a long time. I do not ever remember seeing this much behind the scenes
It's
footage.
like 95%.
Yep.
Outside of some fight footage, even some of the fight footage, some of the angles and some of the stuff they're coming back, it's a lot of that stuff that the UFC always has guys off to the side shooting that shit. That doesn't make the broadcast.
Right.
It all sits
in
get
an
used.
archive.
So you can almost say that 95, 99%, like some of the clips you see Dana over in Italy or Capri in that boat that he rented.
Insane.
Holy hell.
Yeah, so he's that vacation.
Holy hell.
I'm sure everybody's seen the clip. Like him and his son were playing blackjack. I think he posted that on social media.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have the whole.
But imagine like the team that's just following along. That's not Elliot that's shooting that. They
No.
send a team along with him. So like I hope they keep this going forward. But this
do
was a
too.
huge lift.
I don't
financially.
I don't know how this makes any sense whatsoever.
It can't make money. I mean, the only thing I can think is that the UFC planned on already having shooters. A lot of the shooters, if they're using a lot of the footage that's already shot from like the internal shooters, because they have I think there's like 6 or 7, maybe more now shooters for the group that I used to work with. It's expanded, and all they do is shoot. So there's all this crazy, incredible footage. So they're using these great, like, incredible cameras. And then the fact that now we're seeing the best part of the behind the scenes. It's one thing to say, okay, backstage at an event, or in the medical rooms and seeing that stuff. Like, that's cool.
Which we always used to like that.
We're seeing the matchmaking rooms. We're seeing Dana in his office. We're seeing Dana on his vacation. We're seeing Hunter in his office. I mean, you're seeing stuff that does not ever see the light of day.
So the first episode, there's a lot of stuff about John Jones in there, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, they don't paint it. Look, there's some UFC cheerleading in there.
Yeah.
You would expect it, right?
100%.
They're UFC is the greest organization. We
Yeah.
rescue this thing. Okay, there's a little bit of that, but it's not so much that it's sickening, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit, but. They don't paint everybody like in this beautiful way. Like they
Yeah.
talk about John Jones and they talk about all the arrests and all the trouble and
That was in like the first like 10, 15 minutes.
100%.
It goes back into it, but it was like talking about Jones.
Yep.
And then it shows him
And it
getting
was
arrested.
so funny because it's hilarious. And I've talked about that quote because I remember when John Jones won the title. I remember
Yeah.
Dana doing the scrum where he was like, now's the real test. And I don't know what it was he knew about John Jones at that time, but he said, this is when we're going to find out about this kid. This is when all the tests are going to begin because the hanger's on and the whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard him say about that anybody else.
Yeah.
I've never heard it since.
Yeah.
But he said it, and sure enough, with John, he's been in trouble a whole lot. So they kind of talk about that from the very beginning. But so they don't pay everybody perfect. But like talk about behind the scenes footage you'll never see. And whoever edited this thing deserves an award of some kind because the amount of footage they must have gone through. But they
I'm
show
sure there were multiple.
Oh
editors,
yeah,
but
of course. Not just it was a team, not just one guy.
Yeah.
But so they show this. I thought this part was hilarious. John Jones is doing his interview with the broadcasters before the Cyril Gahn fight, and he's talking to John Anik, and John Anik is asking him his questions, and John Jones is like, "Is DC there?"
with you?
And
Yes.
DC's like, you can see, and so they're on the phone, and so they're filming John, and then they're also filming John Anik and DC, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Is DC there?" And you can see DC just like, "Oh, this fucking guy," like it just, you know what I mean? And John is being John, where he's just like, I'm so happy for you and the way your life has grown and that you're happy and all these. And it's just like, what? And then DC flips off the camera like, fuck this guy. I mean, it's stuff like that. Like you'd never see this any other place.
Yep.
It's amazing. And it was funny.
Do you remember the clip that I thought was kind of interesting too? Like, and I almost want to go back just to make sure I'm not misquoting it. Right after Jones wins the belt, and they're underneath, in the backstage area, and his dad is talking with him, and he's like, "You be good tonight."
Yeah.
He's like, "Watch yourself tonight," or whatever,
Yeah.
and says some shit to him, and
So good.
look what happened.
Look what happened.
It's just crazy. I mean, like, I love that they chose to use that. Because
100%.
it just helped set up the whole thing. And they could have easily kept that away. They could have easily kept it to themselves. But here we are the next day after watching, and it's stuck in my head. Like, it's been pinned there. And I was like, because I remember watching, I was like, wow, what a powerful moment of foreboding. And just like literally his dad's like, be careful tonight, watch yourself, be good, don't do anything, or something along those lines. And you're just like,
So this comes out on Friday. I'm assuming all 3 episodes, they'll release them all at once. I think the other thing too. I'm not sure if they'll slow roll it at all, but check it out. It's on Roku. Inside the UFC is what's called. I think part of it too, because this was funny, is that it's people that we work with and people that we know. So like Christoph, who was in UFC PR. And again, this is the thing of them not holding back, right? They're talking about. So this is in episode 3, I believe. They're talking about the Izzy to Sean Strickland to Drickus, like that whole storyline, right? And they have a PR meeting, and so it's all these PR people that we work with. Dave Lockett's still there; he's gone now at this point, but he's in there because at the point they were filming. But I guess they're basically giving him a briefing on a Sean Strickland Media Day scrum, and I wrote down the quote because it's hilarious because it's Christoph who's talking to Lene, these people that we work with, and they're cutting some of Sean's quotes in between the quotes. So Christoph goes, he had a long speech about not allowing women to vote anymore, and that's the reason that this country is kind of going downhill. A couple of choice comments about Germany and America and Brazil as it relates to his opponent. I mean, it was about 26 minutes of unadulterated, and Lene chimes in and goes, Sean. And he goes, Sean. He just says it all. And Lene says, thanks for the recap. It's so funny, you know what I mean? To get to, these are things that we would never get to see, and we're getting to see. So I'm telling you, I know people may be like, oh, man, there's so much content out there.
It's one of the better things I watch. I don't watch a lot of it. I don't watch every
Amanda
embedded
Nunes
stuff.
cut her hand before her retirement fight? I don't remember hearing that.
No, because they didn't say anything about it.
We never heard
that
that,
was
right?
right before the fight when it happened.
Yeah, but that story never came out. That did it? I don't remember
so.
hearing that. So they show that Amanda Nunes cut her hand on the USADA testing bottle in the hours before the Aldana fight. So just stuff like that. Episode 2 has a bunch of stuff about Sean O'Malley in it. So
I was going to say, like, the first fight we really leaned on Jones. The second episode was the O'Malley Aljo fight. And then the third one must be is Strickland Izzy. I still got to finish watching that
Just got to
one.
finish that one.
But I hope that I hope they go forward. But man,
It had to be expensive.
had to be super expensive, and that's the kind of thing that UFC usually wants somebody to pitch in and pay for it. So I'm sure Roku paid for it.
Yeah.
So I would imagine if they're not going to develop something like that and just put on Fight Pass by themselves or put it out or whatever. They're going to want somebody to do it. So maybe if it picks up enough steam, maybe Roku will go back in and ask for it to continue. I know in speaking, because we know these gentlemen, we chat with them, but I know Sean, and I'm sure Hunter and a lot of these cats, Mick, don't like to be on the camera. And for a lot of times
Right.
are in the background and prefer not to do that sort of stuff. And they used to never let anybody interview them. So I can see where they're like, oh, let's not drag this out too far because I don't want to be on every episode, having to chat or anything. But I think that's another part that makes it really kind of cool is that you hear from people that you never really get to see,
Yep.
you never get to hear from,
It was funny. So I tweeted about this right before I came over here, and somebody asked me, where was that?
What's funny, I was trying to reach out and I was like, is this embargoed? Are we allowed to say anything about it? I was
Oh.
like, well, you didn't release any info. Like, there were
Oh,
parts
yeah.
where I want to talk about, like, so they send out these things, PR firms a lot of times send these things out and they're like, hey, for editorial consideration, check out these screeners.
Yeah, yeah.
So, when I passed to our group, I know Nolan was like, hey, is there an embargo on this? He's like, some of this matchmaker stuff is really kind of cool,
Right.
we want to talk about it. But it's like, if they don't want us to release anything, but you never said anything
Yeah.
specifics, but they never responded to me. I was like, hey, is there any sort of embargo on this? I mean, do you want us to not release anything that's
Probably
actually
not, because
in
it's
it?
not like the Ultimate Fighter where it's like results that they don't want you to
Results.
have, right? Because this is all
But
stuff.
still,
that's-
I mean,
it is
you
very
think like
interesting.
where it's like, well, if I know what's going to happen, do I need to watch the Roku? And it's
Yeah.
like you still want to watch it regardless. I think even if we kind of what we've even said, like in it, like it's worth watching it.
It's really good.
Just so neat seeing all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, it was really good. So it was funny. So I tweeted something to that effect, and somebody wrote me back. Big Sippin is his name. I've actually been shocked at how little insight we get into the inner workings of the UFC. John, does UFC keep press away from that sort of thing, or is the press not interested, or a little of both? We don't get so much as a tour of the Mexico PI that they're so proud of. My answer was this, and first of all, the Mexico
They did do
PI,
a tour, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think if anybody showed, and I did say, now the New Mexico PI, I'm sure they'd be happy to give a tour to anyone who asks. Like, if, literally, they would have no problem showing that off. But my answer was, I said, interesting question. I'm like, media doesn't really have on-record access to anyone in the company outside of Dana, save for some rare occasions here and there, and I think that discourages anyone from pursuing. So I think it's a little bit of both, right? Because the only person we're allowed to talk to on record is Dana, and that's at press conferences or interviews.
Yeah, I mean, they've always shut down requests for like
Yeah.
matchmakers, and that could be partially the matchmakers just say no, I don't want to talk about it.
Well,
you
they're
know,
I know they're contractually not supposed to talk
Yeah.
to us, so they can't talk on record. So I think because nobody's allowed to talk on record, like we just kind of quit asking, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, what's the point of? I mean, if it's a closed door, what's the point of keep asking? Can you
Yeah.
open the door if they keep saying no? It's
Yeah.
At some point, that's why it kind of gets whenever people a lot of times. Why didn't you ask this? Why didn't you ask it? I'm like, bro, we asked it a bazillion times
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
and they just say no. Like,
bro, I asked
it's
that
like
question
hitting my head
15 years
against the
ago,
wall.
10 years ago, 5
Yeah.
years ago. Like, the answer's always the same.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, they would never ever say they would never allow us to be a fly on the wall for a matchmaker room. Like,
Never.
like if we ever said, "Hey, Dana, we'd really think this is very interesting. We'd like to cover it," they'd be like, "No," because half the stuff on the wall is still stuff that it's unreleased and stuff they're still working on.
Yeah.
And anybody that goes in there, look what happens anytime somebody snaps a picture of the background when Dana does a social thing from there. It blows up.
Frame
And it-
by
and it-
frame
and it-
breakdown like
yeah.
the Zapruder film
And
out
then-
there to
and then
figure out
it's-
some
And then
matchups.
it just ruins everything that they've been trying to do. It's like that room. I would almost put my life on the line that they'll never give media access to that room ever in a
No.
pre-fight unless it was like some that was like his bestie, like taking Ioli or you in there and you need to, here's a confidentiality thing.
Yeah, right?
But as for like maybe some of the training, some of the PR stuff or the PI stuff, some of that stuff I'm sure we could. Like if we wanted to say,
Yeah.
hey Dana, can you take us through the executive gym? Like that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the executive gym, I was in the way in my head, I was like, I guarantee they're at telling staff go work downstairs in the Apex or in like the thing. Like you ain't gonna work in the executive, which I saw like Borsari was in there and he was in there. I was like, yeah, there ain't no staff in that one. But I thought it was kind of interesting because I've never seen the inside of the executive workout room upstairs. So, and was that cold plunge in there as well?
Yeah.
It's just like they have that shit over at the PI, but no.
They got
We got the executive.
They got their executive suite right
cold
there.
plunge.
Yeah, that was all supposed to be Frank and Lorenzo's offices, and so since they never came in, they just turned that all into a big.
It's awesome.
Big workout room. So anyway, worth checking out. I definitely think it's worth seeking it out because if it's, you know what I mean. Like some say, if I run across it, I'll see it. I definitely would say that if you're a big MMA fan, I think seek this out. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's the most behind the scenes we've ever seen. PFL Europe is this weekend. Unfortunately, the United States, there's no way to watch it. It is in Newcastle on Saturday.
So much sense.
I don't understand why they haven't been able to figure this out. My only thought is this: is that and I don't know this. I haven't spoken to anybody in the company about it. But my only thought is they don't want to just put it on free because then how do you sell something that you're already giving away for free, right? So they're keeping it. But I just
how do you cut out your largest market?
I know. I don't
Unless
like
you're just happy that they don't see this product that you're trying to push. Like if you ever want to bring those athletes, those stars to the States, people have no idea who they are, and there's nobody. It's hard to stay invested in a product that you don't see half of it.
They got to rectify this.
They got to fix it. They got to fix it.
I mean, they're doing good things, right? The regular season's back on June 13th. I actually hosted a media call yesterday where we talked to all the headliners. That was fun. We also talked to Dakota Tsheva was on there as well. She's good, man. She is becoming a star. There's no question about it. So we did that. Their regular season's back on June 13th. Bellator's back on June 22nd. So they've got a lot of good things going on this month. So PFL's, but
that June 13th fight's gonna be. That's a sick card.
Yes, it is.
I was just dragging down that card right now. That's gonna be a sick card.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be. They got some good fights coming up. They really actually do have some good ones. But I just don't understand the PFL Europe thing. They got to get this thing figured out.
It's weird. It's
really
weird. Because we want to watch it.
That's it. I want to see it. You got to find a way to put it on. But UFC Louisville is this weekend. I will not be able to watch it live. I'm actually going tomorrow night to Halifax, which, by the way, if there was ever a weekend to go to the east coast of northern Canada in Halifax, it's like, bro, I looked at the weather there. It's going to be 109 here. It's going to be like 55 there.
Oh, good Lord.
But that'll
be wearing shorts in either one of the locations.
Either one of them, bro. It'll be. I'll be up there.
59 sounds amazing.
I can't wait, man. I was actually talking to the guy that runs Fight League Atlantic, and he's like, "Hey, man, it's like," he's like, "Sorry, bro, it might be raining here."
Where is it again?
To Halifax. I was like, I'll take it, bro. If it's raining, I'm good with that. But Chris Kalidas, actually, who I've called fights with there before, he's actually returning for his retirement fight, so he'll be in the main event. So I will be up there. If you're in Halifax area, come check out Fight League Atlantic. Come say what's up. If not, you can get it at fightleagueatlantic.com. But the UFC is taking place this week in Louisville. Jared Cannonier versus Nasruddin Imavov. Look, it's a main event. It's a meaningful main event. I don't know that it's stirring a ton of people's interest, but it's meaningful in the division. It doesn't have immediate title impact, but for those two guys, obviously, they're trying to stay involved in those middleweight names right now, and there's a bunch of big middleweight fights coming up. It's important for them, but I'm actually really intrigued by some of this card, man. Dominic Reyes is back. I mean, obviously, that's like one of the biggest what-if scenarios in the world. Had that one scorecard gone the other way, and he's the guy that beats John Jones, and then he's had these losses. And so, I mean, like, this is a big one. Dominic Reyes against Dustin Jacoby. You mentioned earlier, Raul Rosas Jr. is back against Ricky Tercios, who we love. Both Ricky
love
is
that dude.
Hilarious.
I don't think he's gonna win this one, but I'm pulling for him. But it's hard to not pull for Rosas as well. I mean, like, the kid says the right things. I mean, he's trying his hardest. I think he's got future star potential. Tercios, I love everything about him. I love all the weirdness that he exudes, and
you know what I'm saying, bro?
You know what I'm saying? You feel me?
Know what I'm saying?
Came back and serenaded us in the post fight interview with his little karaoke mic. I mean, like, the kid is a character, but man, that's a tough matchup.
That's a tough
matchup.
That one was delayed, of course. They were scheduled before. They put it back together. Julian Marquez is on there. Miguel Baeza, who I saw Miguel Baeza recently. He was good. He was in a grappling event for us. He looked good against Punahele Soriano. So that'll be a great fight. CFFC former champ Charles Radke is on there on the undercard. Thiago Moises and Ludovic Klein could be a good card. Brad Katona is on there. Cody Stamen down there against Taylor Lapidus, who I think is a guy that gets kind of underrated a lot, not talked about. So I don't know. This looks like a fun card. I think I'm trying to figure out my schedule. I think I'm gonna have to watch it on tape delay because I think I'll be working during most of it. But
is Radke gonna charge them to interview him?
He might. You leave old Chuck Buffalo alone. You like picking on my man Chuck Buffalo, man. Chuck Buffalo will flip you off in a second, man. He's a good dude. I like him, man. But I don't know. So I think it's gonna be a fun fight card. And of course we'll recap it all on Patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow for the and a half version.
Who do you think is gonna take that Lee and De La Rosa? Because this one I was going back and forth in my head, and I wanted to get your
That's
thoughts.
a must-win for both of them, right?
Yeah.
They got to. They both had a couple setbacks.
But I did settle on one. I want to see if you are the same.
I'm gonna say De La Rosa.
Ooh,
Did you go Lee?
I went Lee.
What are the odds on that one?
Because I don't know, it's weird. Like I think the last time I picked De La Rosa, and she did look good, but man, I just feel like this is one of those fights where I think Lee's and she's just nuts, man. I think she's just gonna pull it out.
Andrew Lee is the slight favorite.
Is
Pretty close to the odds makers. I'm looking at DraftKings has it -155, and Montana De La Rosa at +130.
So not too bad.
Not too bad. I feel like the wrestling could be in my head. I think the wrestling, but then, yeah.
It'd be interesting. But yeah, that's a good fight. That's good. Good card.
Get Brad Katona
Stamon's way down.
-625. Brad
Dude.
Katona -625.
That's crazy.
That's
well,
huge.
I mean, the only two-time tough winner. That's got to be something right there. Yeah, this was tough because I know there's a lot of extreme guys on this one.
Yep.
And that's what that Puna, man. Like I was almost gonna lean Baeza, but I'm like, man, I see Eric a lot. I love Eric. We just did some stuff there. I was like, I'm a homer and I'm Puna, man. That's gonna be a tough one though. That's gonna be a tough fight.
Everybody loves Puna. Anybody in Vegas loves Puna.
Yeah,
like that's just a good dude, man.
He's such a good dude.
Everybody,
he's a funny
loves
dude. Good character.
He is hilarious. By the way, let's see. I am looking at the odds for the first time. Nasruddin Imavov, a slight favorite over Jared Cannonier. Did you pick Nasruddin?
And it's I was listening to the interview today that
it's a good fight.
Bond did, and he's quick to discount people, and this I'm partially on that side where people look at that 40 and they're like, I haven't fought for a year, they look at the age, they think I'm old, and he's like, dude, I'm not old,
right?
And he's like, I'm feeling better than ever, there were reasons he had to stay out of it, but man, when I started looking at these, the 40 did pop in my head,
of course,
and it's hard to discount it, but man, Cannonier. He could definitely do his thing. I don't know why. I just feel like this. And one, maybe it's a partial play to try to catch up on the pick leader because I'm 2 behind, and this one we would be opposite.
Only 2 behind right now?
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Made up some ground.
That's in a good spot.
At one point, he was like 6 on me or something. So now we're at 2. So I feel like I'm pretty good. So me and Farr are tied for second. And Bon's up on number 1 right now.
Right.
But I think Imavov has the potential to do it. I think, one, it's like if Cannonier, he doesn't ever seem to tire, so that I give them the credit for that. He doesn't move and fight like a 40-year-old. But, man, I just feel like this could be one where and I didn't realize that the odds were favoring Imavov, but just I'm kind of hoping, but I don't. It's not like I have my heart in. I'm just trying to make a play for our picks and stuff. But I did lean him.
It's a pure strategy play.
Who you taking in the Reyes Jacoby fight?
Jacoby.
So did I.
Yeah.
I think that's the smart play.
I did too.
I mean, nothing against Dominic. Jacoby's just tough as nails, man. He shows up for fights like this. And I think he's gonna do it. So. It should be a good fight. I think it's going to be a good night of fights.
I think it's going to be a fun one.
You look down the whole card. There's nothing that you're like, oh, I don't know much about Tomar and Amanda at the bottom of the card, but
yeah,
that's why you watch these things, to get a glimpse of, this potential. But I'm looking at Tapology. They both got belts over their shoulders. I'm not sure who the organizations are, but they got belts over their shoulders. They both got multiple losses, but it'd be interesting. I love cards like this because, there's always going to be something that leaves you. And it's funny, I talk about being an extreme. I was watching Cody Stamen and one of the guys working out, man, and was like the politest, recognized me and was like, oh, hey.
He's such a nice dude.
Yeah, and it's just I love these cards where I didn't even know he was on this fight card until I scrolled down the other day and I was like, holy shit, Stamen's on this one. I was like, well, and now I have another reason to kind of watch it again. So, I'd be watching it anyways. But
what else are you going to do?
So it's be good. It'll be good. I'm glad we're back into the mix, man. And soon Contender Series is going to be popping up.
Contender Series is going to fire
up. They have
the
2 fights a week. As crazy as it sounds,
Hill versus
so
Ulberg,
fun.
just a few weeks
Can't wait
away,
for the Hill versus Ulberg one. Can't wait to see that new poster that they put out. They're just gonna put the images over top of the other one. They're like, we already got this format. We just slightly dissolve. In fact, if you zoom in really, really closely, behind Connor, you see Hill's picture.
Hopefully that all stays together, man. That would
Yeah.
be, it would be pretty. I mean, like I said, the interesting thing about all the speculation is, like I said, the show's going on regardless. Like, there's still
Yeah.
going to be a fight card. We're still going to be covering it. So it
Still
really doesn't
International
change
Fight
anything.
Week. It's still going to be crazy.
Still going to be a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, with
It's
International
going to be
Fight
hot
Week.
as hell.
It's going to be super hot.
It's going to be super hot. So if you guys are making the trek out here, be prepared. Stay hydrated. But yeah, regardless of whether. But I mean, I think we said that before. I mean, like, yes, it's amazing to be fun to see Connor and Chandler. It'd be fun to see that fight happen. But I mean, regardless, I'd be into whoever's at the top of the bill. It's going to be a good card.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's so weird, right? Because, like, it is so interesting. Because, look, if Connor's involved, the world pays attention. If he's not, the world doesn't. Like, it is huge. But it's weird because, like, for us that are, like, that live the sport, like, don't get me wrong. I love it when Connor fights. Like, it's just a different energy, man. Like, the feel in the arena, the media tent, I'm sure, is just popping off over the, just a whole different feel. But, you know, it's all, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different feel. But it's funny because, like, a title's not going to change hands. And, like, I mean, I would say it's not a number one contender fight, but if Connor wins, like, they'll put him against somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if he says, I want to fight for the welterweight title, they'll let
okay.
him. Yeah, all right,
Sure.
well, sounds good to us.
You want to fight middleweight next?
But it's funny. Like, I'm excited about it, but it's funny because it's like the biggest story, and I'm like, I care. Obviously, I care, but it's like, but the show goes on.
Yeah, the show's going to go on. It's still going to be fun. But, yeah, I mean, the glimpses of those old Connor fights in Vegas where, like, the Irish crowd would just taken over the strip was
Crazy,
just
man.
so amazing. I'm so glad that we got to see that and experience that because that's the stuff I think we always miss. Like, we still get great moments in the press conference. You get great quotes and stuff, but, man, it hasn't been that way for a while where we've gotten those big, crazy, like, crowd scenes showing up hours and hours in advance, just taking over venues. But I'm glad that we have those memories because that was
Special,
that
man.
was special is exactly
Special.
it. You know, it was so fun. It was so fun. Even when he used to put on those crazy marathon like open workouts and stuff, that was just amazing. He would just literally do like a martial arts spectacle for like an hour. Just train for like 45 minutes.
How
an
many
hour.
of us? I mean, there was a ton of media all just packed in there, just watching Connor work out for
Just
like an
watch him
hour.
work out.
It's so weird.
I mean, you know, as much as I know people are like, you know, the open workouts was for the fans. They could see the stuff. I know a lot of media
miss
were like, I don't know.
I missed the
What
big
are we
open
gonna do? I
workouts.
thought they were so cool.
I did too.
Especially when fighters embraced it and really
Yeah.
did it. Now they started trickling to the, I'm just going to answer some fan questions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guys, what do you want to ask me? What do you want to hear? Like, I get that, but there's something about actually seeing somebody go up there and actually work through these moves that you're never going to see that close. You know, they were feet away from Jones and all these guys just rolling on the ground, doing all this other stuff, and people leave that event changed and like feeling better, like because some people in the fight week they don't have the money to go see the event, so like that open workout was
their opportunity.
That was their opportunity to see their heroes or see these people that they idolize, you know. So I hope that those come back because as much of I'm sure PR would say they're a pain in the ass to do, juggling all the fighters to transfer them from here to there and make the times
like you said,
work.
there's some fighters that wouldn't do it. I know Dan Henderson was one that would never do it. You know, there were a couple that just wouldn't. There were a few like Diego Sanchez who would do it for like an hour. When we were like, bro, we only need like 15 minutes.
You don't need it. You can stop. And they're like, no. Tony used to do that too.
Oh, dude, that is one of my favorite stories ever. Like. It was right after International Fight Week. It was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Tony Ferguson was there. And it was me and Fernando Praches and like some local media. Yeah. And we did an open workout, and the local media left after, I want to say, Devin Clark, maybe it was somebody that they were somebody local that they were covering. And when they left, like when that workout was over, the media left. So it was literally just me and Fernanda. And Tony Ferguson shows up to do his open workout. And we're like, bro, we just need to get a few minutes of sound from you. Like, you don't actually have to work out. And he was like, no. I'm working out. And he took his phone over to like the system and like put some, so it was playing his music everywhere in there, and he put on a full on open workout for just me and Fernando.
I love it.
He was the best.
It's so because a lot of them, I mean, it sucks to, especially when you're doing a weight cut, to have to stop to go and do this media thing. But it's like, all right, well, if I know I'm going to get a sweat on, if I know I'm going to get some, my heart rate going, I can plan that into the actual cut for the week, and then some guys just fully embraced it. And some realize that, especially if they were going to be fans, they realize that their fans love that shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I miss that more than anything else. I don't miss the old media days when they used to have like everybody in the chairs. I thought there were some points there where they had great visuals because you could get the fighter real nice up and close,
Yeah.
and you could get what you want, and you weren't forced to do others. But if I had to think about things that used to be part of Fight Week that are no longer around,
Open workouts.
Open workouts.
How about when Anderson would bring like his whole team in and they would put on like demonstrations and
It's crazy,
yeah.
crazy. It's
I
I'm
do
sure
miss that.
I'm sure it'll come back eventually.
I do miss those.
You know, but that was definitely.
I don't miss the old media day. I know a lot of media misses the old media day because like when
they
we
would
could
try
all
to do
get
their one-on-ones.
Everybody could get their one-on-ones, their individual content, but it was a cluster to try to get around.
Because everybody tried to do their one-on-ones, and you're in line, you're in a queue for 5 or 6 people, and then at some point the PR is just like, sorry guys, we got to pull them.
And it wasn't supposed to be one-on-ones. It was supposed to be like it's all fair game. And so that started to get a little bit annoying, but I do miss the open workouts.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Well, we'll see what International Fight Week holds for us. Looking forward to that, and obviously we'll hope we get Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler. Hill versus Ulberg.
We'll stay positive.
Positive
Thinking.
Positive vibes. All right. Hope everybody enjoys the week. Like I said, it is hot and out here in Las Vegas. So if you're coming out for UFC 303, just be prepared because summer is already here. I'm looking forward to heading to Halifax. So if you happen to be in Canada, look us up there. Fight League Atlantic 15. And of course, we will have the half episode for everybody over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Maybe Sunday morning. I'm not sure, but I'm not leaving Halifax till like 2 in the afternoon. So we'll figure that all out. But anyway, hope everybody is having a great day. Stay positive. Keep sending good vibes to Conor McGregor. Everybody, if we all send positive vibes.
I'm working on it right now.
If we all send positive vibes together, it'll heal the leg and he'll be fine. Check out Inside the UFC. Thanks for listening.